This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
The noon presentation goes to full strength, always were. That's debatable. Good morning, and welcome to Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center for day one of Minnesota Vikings Training Camp. And as uttered yesterday, 9 to noon, indeed, it is a reconstruction of a dream. And it's a treat to be at Minnesota Vikings Training Camp and the VEN's Cozy Radio Studio. Why are we in the Cozy Radio Studio? Because there ain't nothing happening outside until afternoon. Perch dead. Perch dead for now. Perch not dead. August 13th and 14th. More on that momentarily. I'm Paul Allen. Nordo produces. He's mad producer. It's Paul Allen filling in for Eric Nordquist. And Perch dead. What do you think about Perch dead? And good morning.
Good morning. I was talking about this in the last couple of days where I do miss, for instance, the days of Mankato. I miss doing the drive-by interviews. You're breathing heavy, the whole thing. We're catching up with players on their way out to the walkthrough at Blakesley. And even early stages here at TCO with Zimmer, he would do the walkthroughs in the morning. People are chilling and meeting. And then there's a practice in that afternoon. Now, with all of that said, it's efficiency, it's meetings in the morning. We go walk through straight into practice, different regimes, different ideas, and different tendencies.
Yeah.
I missed the Perch, but they take care of us in here at TCO, my man.
It's cozy.
And we know what's going to be out there. We will still have the ability to stick around, go grab a sandwich at Jersey Mike's, come back like Alec Lewis and watch the practice on site. So we don't necessarily miss the action. The vibe is different, but we're still at the party, PA. We're still at the party.
I think Common's on the Perch today. I think the program, noon to 3, originates from the official. He's the official, unofficial ambassador of Minnesota golf. The Perch is the official, unofficial home for the vast and ever-expanding Minnesota Vikings radio network and the core 4 of KFAN shows. It's a perch that overlooks 4 perfectly manicured practice fields, really 4.5. The Mike Hughes Memorial Field's now kind of a half field. And starting around noon, as we're starting all over again. And maybe it will be rough, but we have plenty of time to get into that. The walkthrough is at 12:05. That's you're going to love this. That's prime key moments provided for yours truly to do what?
Drive-bys.
Memorize numbers.
Oh, memorize numbers and names.
And body types.
Will you have the bandana with the water down by your feet, shoes without socks on, hiding in the shade?
Depends on how hot it is, Mr. Nordquist. But I think it's going to be okay today. And we are nevertheless here, Perch or not, with Vikings Training Camp day one, because the belly of the beast is our friend.
Yes.
We're in the belly of the beast. And we will be here for those joint practices against New England. And the intel indicates the Perch very much is in play for those. Like,
really?
This is super in the weeds, exciting stuff, but walk through 12:05, practice 2:00 today. They'll go 2 to, I think, 4 maybe, 3:45 or 4. And it's helmets today, helmets tomorrow. Then they go to shells, I think, and Monday is first day of padded practice.
Yes.
So that's when it starts to get a little nasty and a little grimy. August 13th and 14th, the New England Patriots are here. We have some practice time schedules, and I'm not exactly sure because they're not exactly sure exactly when they're going to begin. But when the Patriots are in town, Drake May trying to avoid the gink. The gink. The gink is on fire. We got to be out of the Perch because if that sucker begins like 11:15, we're going to get a chance to see at one point a team that was known as the red, white, and blue of football immortality. Now they're just the New England Patriots trying to win more than 4 or 5 games with Diggsy by their side. Stephon Diggs cleared for practice. So I fully expect Perch August 13th and 14th for the joints. Aren't you excited about that?
Yeah, I'm just in on all of it, man. I mean, whether it's coming in here this morning, and if we are doing those perch shows, we got to get the extra towels. Let's get the extra towels for the sprinkler related terrorism.
Find a special star for our passes in case we want to get some water from the like the VIP tent.
Yes,
and if we're denied. So we got to get some water.
We got to get some water.
In case it's super humid and things like that.
It might be a bring your own scenario. We'll see. There's still time to work on that. Mm-hmm. And of course, closed circuit maybe to leadership who may or may not be en route to a paradise-like location at this point. Yes, it's going to be windy. No, I can't do anything about it. So we're going to try and work our way through it, but the perch is awesome. And the joint practices really now with the way that Kevin O'Connell and most teams are running it, that's probably going to be our closest action in terms of true physical competitiveness at points throughout the preseason, who's playing in what games. Those certainly will be talkers with the 3 preseason game lineup.
I'd pump the brakes on that if I were you. The Houston Texans are here August 9th, and we can do a little deduction. All right? So you got a quarterback who's never played a regular season game. You got that Texans game. It's at home.
Yeah.
I think people would really, really enjoy seeing the second-year product from Michigan for, I don't know, a quarter, maybe a half. Who knows? Ooh. And then, see, here's what I'm getting at here. And I don't have intel on this, but like when Kwesi Adofo-Mensah joins at 11:15, we'll start the conversation there. Then with O'Connell, stuff like that. I don't see how they can't play J.J. McCarthy an extended amount of time in the Texans game. Because now under the cover of darkness, unless you're at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center for those joint practices, August 13th and 14th, you're right. Those are like games within practices.
Yeah.
It's Vrabel getting, with his dog O'Connell, and they're like crafting things they want to do.
Right.
Hey, do this, and I don't know.
See how their teams react to certain scenarios and adjust.
I don't know this to be fact, but it's like say O'Connell says to Vrabel, all right, well, in OTAs or the early stages of training camp, JJ has had trouble with this. Is it possible for you to show him this and fall back into that and work so he can work through it? Vrabel could be like, all right, well, I got Carlton Davis over there. He's new and we're doing A, B, and C, and he's cool with A. He's getting better with B, but he has no shot at C. So can we run those double moves on his side and, have the receiver break an inward route and turn it into a post so we can see how he flips his hips? They do things like that. So those are like games within practices, which means I can't see really any of the ones or the majority of the players on whom we'll be counting when they go to Chicago September 8th, playing in that Patriots game, likewise for the Titans game. So now I get to the Texans game, and I'm thinking outside of maybe Justin Jefferson, Harrison Smith,
Aaron Jones, probably.
Aaron Jones, maybe. Will Fries, who's back from a broken leg. I think he's cleared to practice. Obviously players who are a little dinged up, stuff like that, you'll hold them out. But the Texans game is the continuity game.
It is.
And I don't care.
That's a good point.
I don't care who D'Amico Ryans plays. The kid needs reps in a real game with a crowd, with the noise, with the pressure, stuff like that. So I don't know how much McCarthy's going to play in this Texans game. If he doesn't play, I think it's a 1% chance he doesn't play. So the question is, how much will he play in that situation? Because ain't nobody going to play in the Patriots game because of the joints. And then the Tennessee game, I don't know how that's going to work, but that's the final preseason game, and good morning.
No, that's a great point. You're going to see him. He rolls out. They do the smoke from the mouth or the nostrils of the dragon.
Yep, smoke from a distant fire.
There's going to be the VEN presentation. Everyone's pumped up. It's a game that doesn't count, but they get to see number 9. 6-play, 75-yard drive, a touchdown. You'll hear Bursich say, put him on ice. I've seen everything I need to see.
We've seen enough.
And call it a preseason game. It's the continuity game. Yeah, I think
We'll see.
Given that he hasn't taken an NFL snap.
Yeah.
And he did get that limited run in the Raiders game and showed out and brought all that excitement before we found out about the knee.
Yep.
That would make sense, I think. And given so much change specifically across the offensive line, even from a continuity standpoint, how vital that could be just to get some reps before Vrabel and company come to town.
So with those joint practices, August 13th and 14th, I will push for the perch even if practice begins close to noon, because it's when you have two teams at the same facility, like they come out and do things on the field before the practice.
Yeah.
Maybe not like 180 players. There aren't walkthroughs, things like that. But if, like at 9:15, 9:30 in the morning, we're on the exclusive Vikings Radio Network perch overlooking the 4.5 perfectly manicured practice fields. If Stephon Diggs, who used to wear the colors, comes out at 9:15 or 9:30.
We got to see it.
And he's trying to perfect routes. We got to see it.
We have to see that.
We have to be there to see Diggsy, right?
Yeah, we do. What was it? The Cardinals joints. We saw not a ton of action, but for
Kyler
instance,
running?
just even seeing Kyler trying to come back from the ACL.
Yeah, right in front of us. It was the bomb.
Right in front of us, and we're like, wow, he's 5'10", but he's a freaking brick bleep house.
I know.
And so, getting to see those, yes. We're in here today. We will be in here a fair amount, actually.
Yeah, we'll be back Friday.
But the ability to see that on the perch, the sights and the sounds kind of provides the track to this show, and we'll be out there.
Yeah, Steph got 2.5 years here at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, otherwise known as the Palatial Purple Paradise, known as TCOPC. Yeah, we. Then for Steph, it was over, Johnny. And off to Houston we go, or off to Buffalo we go, and then off to Houston we go, and then he'll be back with the New England Patriots. Now, since since we are in the belly of the beast, which is a Viking season anew. The belly of the beast is a Viking season anew, which is quickly approaching. The belly of the beast has found us, and I think it behooves us to kind of tie some things together that we've discussed in passing during Finchy's run, during the super special buyouts being in the rearview mirror July 1st for the hockey team. But it's figuring out whether, how are we going to put this? Like, I'm going to bring it up with Gessling. Are the Vikings more likely to finish first in the division or last in the division?
Ooh.
Are they more likely to be top dog in the NFC North, or are they potentially embarking on going common man on the bit and being fourth in the North? Just chew on that for a little bit, because when we return around the corner before Mike Florio, we're going to take a look at the entity or entities to beat in the NFC North, and we'll wonder and talk it out. Are the Chicago Bears guaranteed a big jump with beloved BJ? And going from, I think they won 5 games last year, going from 5 wins to say 10. Ben Johnson gets a lot of praise, and at this stage of the equation, rightfully so. There have been roster additions and a lot of hoopla and a lot of positivity and a lot of speculative hope that is transpiring from the second city. There is an underlying key the Chicago Bears have to their team I would like to discuss around the corner. It's a positive key for the Bears, might be negative for the rest of the division, and it does not involve Ben Johnson, their head coach. We'll get into that and much more as 9 to noon rolls on today from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon includes guest-wise Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com at about 9:40. Ben Gessling, the scribe from the Star Tribune. He'll join us on site at about 10:03. And Minnesota Vikings general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah will join us from the TCO radio studio at 11:15. It's Nordo producing, and I'm Paul Allen. It's Minnesota Vikings Training Camp Day 1, and 9 to noon is on the scene on your home for Vikings football, FM 100.3, KFAN.
The Fan and BigTech.com wants to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our National Cash Contest. Enter the keyword BILLS at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. That's keyword BILLS. Enter it now at KFAN.com.
It's 9 to noon. Paul Allen filling in for Eric Nordquist. And we established the question and the premise to start training camp day 1, 9 to noon, kind of from the baseline. And that would be thinking about and or looking at the division and the entity or entities to beat in the NFC North. And the wonderment being, are the Chicago Bears guaranteed a big jump with beloved BJ and going from 5 wins to, say, 10? I think putting a fair amount of time into training camp prattle and stories and all the Courtney Cronins and Dave Burkett's and Dan Wiederers and Rob Domovsky's over the last week and change, just to see what they kind of think about the squads they cover for the 2025 season. With that and just the way some of the thought process is going with these certain teams, I think there are 2 major things that are being underrated into training camp for the NFC North. One, we've mentioned in passing a fair amount of times with the Minnesota Vikings and quarterback J.J. McCarthy, is he's not going to be as good game number 1 at Soldier Field as he will be, say, out of the bye against Philadelphia at the LA Chargers or middle-ish of the season. Then the hope is he's at his best nearing the end of the season, hopefully into the postseason. Then year number 2, like really, really takes off. I think that's a fair way to look at a gifted, smart, young quarterback. But the underrated facet here is the coaching staff with whom he's working. And, you know, the coach of the year being the man calling the plays and the head coach and, you know, Super Bowl winning ancillary pieces around him, recognizing we know coming into the season that he needs, he may get himself in trouble with scenarios A, B, C, D, and E, but you don't know that. So we're going to keep him out of those situations until we put 140, 210, 290 plays on tape. And then defensive coordinator du jour, head coach du jour, is like, let's say you never boot to the left with him. Whenever he runs, it's always to the right. So we're going to take away the right and make everything go to the left. Well, that's the we know that you know that they know that we know that you know that we know chess match that makes things so fascinating. And the underrated facet with the Vikings with McCarthy is how the coaching staff will raise him during the course of these battles, knowing things on which he needs to improve or where he gets himself in trouble and avoiding them. So it's having a deeply rooted belief in specifically the offensive coaching staff and what they've done, not only with Kirk Cousins, but Sam Darnold last year, and so on and so on and so on. But with the Chicago Bears, I don't think their defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen, is getting enough praise. I don't think with Ben Johnson becoming the head coach and leaving the Detroit Lions and that greatest show on turf type offense, that's where a lot of the focus goes. Then after that, it goes to Caleb, thinking he's going to get 4,000 yards this year passing, which he may. And then after that, it goes to players that have been added and ancillary things like this. Dennis Allen is one of the great defensive minds in the National Football League. And from what I know about Dennis Allen, formerly a head coach with the New Orleans Saints, but a defensive-minded guy, is from what I've been told about Dennis and what I know about Dennis is he's as good as anybody during the course of the battle at changing on the fly. Now, when you're a head coach, there are a lot of different things that you need to keep your finger on. And sure, you can construct the defense and orchestrate the defense and call the defensive plays, but as a head coach, there are markedly more things to do than just focus on the defense. Well, that's all he needs to do with the Chicago Bears. And Dennis is really, really good during the course of games at adjusting before you think he's going to adjust. So if you believe Ben Johnson's Bears are going to jump from 5 wins to, say, 10, because there are some that have the Bears winning 9, 10, or 11 games. I think that's a little bit of a stretch this year, but nevertheless, they're going to win more than 5. But they not only could be, with this coach and the unpredictability he's going to bring, second year for the quarterback and super well-respected, sharp, and smart defensive coordinator, the Bears have an opportunity to become the story of the league. So like the Minnesota Vikings, they're less than 5% to become the story of the league because they won 14 last year. That's just, it's good, it's cool, it's successful, and a lot of people make money off of it.
It would be McCarthy having an MVP-like season, potentially,
there you go,
to make them the story of the league.
There you go. Something like that would have to happen. But the Bears going from 5 to 10, or 5 to 11, well, that would become like a story of the league.
Yeah, he'd be coach of the year.
And Ben Johnson probably would win coach of the year. Do we believe that can happen? It plays into, are the Vikings more likely to finish first in the division or fourth in the North? Because if the Bears take this mercurial jump, well, then you got to think about what's Green Bay going to do and like what's Detroit going to do. But we're not doing shows from Allen Park or adjacent to Kroll's West in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We're at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. The Bears, 5 to 10. Do you believe they'll win more than 5? And do you think the possibility is realistic to get up to like 10?
Well, I think, it's certainly possible. And I do think that they'll win more than 5. Now, in the same way that you could be, if you were pessimistic about J.J. McCarthy, into the season, hasn't taken NFL snaps. It is going to be different. It is going to be new in front of him across the offensive line. And by the way, we can play this game with just about each of the teams in the division. Mm-hmm. With the Chicago Bears, you could speak to the idea if J.J. McCarthy is going to be better in week 7 or 8, and certainly better in week 18 than he was in week 1. I think you can say the same thing about Caleb Williams in terms of, sure, he's had this offseason with the new head coach, and they're working on things. He has that year of game reps under his belt, so all of that helps. And you can do all of that, but in the same sense, what's going to be new and different when the live action's actually flying for Caleb Williams? So what does that growth curve look like? Yeah. They have a ton of new in front of him on the offensive line as well. You're asking the run scheme, probably significantly different than it was a year ago. And then while, again, the warm-up period, and as good as Dennis Allen has been, the reason the defense is in the conversation, I think it's just because they were somewhat competent a year ago. I think most people are looking at a 5-win team and just watching Caleb chasing at the end of games because of incompetence and inefficiencies early on. The offense probably remains the A topic. Dennis Allen, he's going to have those guys firing on all cylinders midseason, but there will be that period of buildup to what they ultimately want to do and accomplish. So, week 1, we've mentioned it several times over the course of the summer. You do expect, kind of flippantly or jokingly, an underwhelming game, but it will be a game where two teams are both trying to find themselves with some new aspects of their organization. I think they can win more than 5. 10 is still an absolute stretch when you look at the teams that all of us in the NFC North are going to be playing this year, PA. I think 10 is going to be, again, coach of the year. Everything went right. everything started and finished at a super high level where they're sitting with double-digit wins, and certainly in that respect, they'd be a playoff team. Everything has to go right for them, which makes it not impossible, but certainly a difficult path to get there.
So Caleb, who did a press conference yesterday, Caleb Williams, second-year USC, first overall pick in that draft that had those 6 quarterbacks going like the top 12, the J.J. McCarthy draft.
Yeah.
When he was asked about his goals and or expectations, he came out and said that he wants to throw for at least 4,000 yards. And that's cool. I mean, I don't think a lot of coaches prefer their players like setting numerical standards like that.
Right.
For whatever the reason, they just get a little constipated with stuff like that. Personally speaking, I couldn't care less. But this surprised me a little bit. And maybe following Caleb from afar last year.
It'd be a franchise record, by the way.
Right. He'd be the first to throw for more than 4,000, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Well, he threw for 35 and change last year, 3,500 and change last year. That surprised me a little bit. I didn't think the number was that big for Caleb Williams. So he was 400 and change from it last year. And I'm not one to say whether they're going to throw or run more, quite honestly, because I don't have any idea. But consider this with Ben Johnson and quarterback Jared Goff when they got together in Detroit. Now, Jared's better than Caleb, at least as of now. And they're both pocket passers. Caleb moves better than Jared, and you can do things with Caleb Williams on the move that you can't do with Jared Goff. But when Ben Johnson had been with the Detroit Lions, I think since 2019, 18-19, he was quality control. It was a quick ascension. He became tight ends coach, then passing game coordinator, then offensive coordinator for 3 years. Jared Goff, his first year with Ben Johnson, 4,400 passing yards. Second year, 4,500 passing yards. Third and final year, 4,600 passing yards. So 4,000, I mean, that's I don't want to say the low mark for Caleb Williams and a Ben Johnson offense, but when Caleb said it, I'm like, okay. But then you think about it and you think about Goff's maturation and the way Johnson does things, then it's probably more attainable than I thought. But I don't believe the Bears are the team to beat in the NFC North. The question is, who is the true target at which to shoot in the NFC North for the Minnesota Vikings? Is it the Lions, the Packers, or the Bears? And we'll hit on more of that as the show continues today, because around the corner, Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com joins 9 to noon from Vikings Training Camp in Eagan on KFAN.
Fan.
Minneapolis, get ready. Music legend Paul McCartney is bringing back his Get Back tour to U.S. Bank Stadium October 17th. Tickets are on sale now. One night, one icon. Don't miss it. Full details now at KFAN.com, /calendar.
And here comes Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com and NBC's Football Night in America. He's also an author, and that would include his newest Big Shield, which is released August 19th. And Mike joins us now. Mike, Paul Allen, good morning. How are you?
Hi, Paul. How are you? I just finished I want to call it the final proofread, but I have a feeling I'm going to have to read it one more time just to clean out any last thing. The closer you get to the end, the harder it is to spot that last typo. And in 385 pages, it's inevitable there's going to be one, and the goal is to find it. So 4 weeks to go until it's available, and the work still continues, but it's fun.
Any questions from this is off a conversation we had 3 weeks ago when we started talking about this. Any questions from the league offices about your book, Big Shield, since we chatted at that time?
Not yet. And they monitor everything I do.
I know. So, that's why I asked.
I'm surprised that there hasn't been something, maybe, can we take a look at an advanced copy in the event we'd like to sue you? Although there's nothing in there that they could use as any sort of litigation material. And the other side of it, too, is you have to ask yourself, if we would fight this, do we make it a bigger thing than it otherwise is going to be?
Mm-hmm.
I remember when
the
movie Concussion was coming out, they were very concerned about it. And at the end of the day, they decided to just do nothing. And that worked because the movie didn't do well. Nobody really cared. Nobody wants to go to the theater to watch a drama about how the NFL did or didn't handle concussions properly. And that was that. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe they don't care, and I like it better if they don't care. But I do know this. If I was using team names, they would care. I'm right up to the line of calling it the NFL and using team names. But I think I'm on the right side of the line, and if they want to fight me over it, that's fine. That's their prerogative. They'll probably win if they do, but I don't see why they'd want to, because at the end of the day, it's another effort to promote the league. And yes, at some level, it makes the league look bad, but it also operates as a cautionary tale that if any players read it, and they probably won't, but if any players read it, they may come away from it thinking, we probably should resist any temptation to provide inside information to somebody who's offering us something of value in return for it.
With PFT, ProFootballTalk.com, the preferred football destination of 9 to noon, and many people listening right now. The content machine is chock full of team and player tidbits with training camp opening, I'd imagine. It has to be fun times for the PFT staff and those of us who take it in at ProFootballTalk.com. Is that accurate? And good morning.
Yeah, good morning. It's nonstop right now, and the staff is fully cranking out more and more donuts and or shoveling coal into the engine. Either way, it just needs to keep going. And there's some slow time stories that have trickled over into the full-blown launch of camps, and I'm sure that some at the NFLPA would just as soon see everyone turn the page to camp-related issues, but they've got chaos there right now, so we're still covering that. Pablo Torre and I have spent a lot of time over the past month and a half trying to ferret out some truths that have indirectly or directly led to some real consequences for people at the union, and now they're scrambling to find an interim executive director and then an executive director after that, and there's all sorts of questions and turmoil and things that we're continuing to follow. And even though people are gone, the executive director, Lloyd Howell, gone, chief strategy officer and former president, J.C. Treader, gone, there's still plenty of stuff percolating about what happened, how we got here, and what comes next.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, and that's a problem point, no doubt. I mean, we haven't chatted about it in the last few weeks, but I followed it closely.
I have an idea, and I'm going to mention it here publicly for the first time. I'm about to tape my PFTPM podcast, and it's going to be one of the things I mentioned, and it was inspired by a question from a viewer, which makes me not regret taking questions from viewers, because every once in a while, it's a great question that leads me to a great spot. I've resisted throughout the entire process of the last month or so any overtures or efforts by people who clearly are trying to position themselves to be considered for the interim executive director or full-time executive director job. And I know when they're doing it. And I've said, I'm not playing Game of Thrones. I'm not suggesting candidates. I'm not doing any of that. Don't even think it's going to work. And I've stayed true to that. But I'm making an exception, and this isn't because anyone has suggested this to me, and I have no idea if this person would even be interested. But the NFLPA became attracted to Lloyd Howell in part because he's been on the business side his whole career, or had been. And he reportedly persuaded them, hey, I know how this works. I've fought against unions. I'm the right person to help you. Okay, fine. If you buy that concept, why not try to get somebody from behind Big Shield? Why not try to hire somebody who knows how the NFL makes its sausage, who knows what the NFL is trying to do vis-a-vis its union, who has been involved in the room where these meetings have happened? And coincidentally, Paul, because he's turning 70, Mark Murphy is leaving the Packers on Friday. Former player.
Yeah.
Mark Murphy leaving the Packers as CEO. Wouldn't that be a genius move by the NFL Players Association to make him the interim executive director?
Right, and he's seen so much for so long.
He's an owner. He's been an owner for nearly 20 years.
Yeah, I like that because that's with the way things went down with DeMaurice Smith, and then now we have that book that I've read about 1 million times at ProFootballTalk.com, and it seems like somebody different catches a stray every single time you post something different. And then now Hal out, Treader, that got nasty. He's done. So, I mean, this is the whole thing's such a problem point that somebody calm like Mark and somebody with the vast experience he has, I think that's a wonderful name. Is that, I mean, have you heard that, or is that just like your suggestion?
No, it was an idea, a question that was raised by a viewer. Every day that I do PFTPM, I put out a call for questions, and I saw it, and I thought, okay, I'll add that question. And the more I've thought about it, and now that we've talked about it, it just makes a ton of sense. Now, I do remember this. After the 2011 CBA was done, or during those negotiations, there was a lot of hostility from the union toward Mark Murphy, I think in part because he was a player. And now he's, on the other side, and he's pushing hard for whatever the NFL was trying to do. I don't care. That was 14 years ago. Mm-hmm. If this guy wants to keep working, and again, he has been aged out of the job. This isn't him choosing to leave.
Right.
He could if he wanted to. Nothing is stopping him as far as I know. I mean, I can't believe there'd be any documents or whatever. He would be. It's a publicly traded company, even though the stock is worthless. But yeah, I think that there's value in considering him.
Okay, outside of the NFLPA, I'd like to address some problem points heading into training camp for certain teams. And as I was crafting this, this is going to become Cincinnati Bengals fan line just a little bit. Stud pass rusher Trey Hendrickson digging in his heels on that desired contract. Is this a major problem for the Cincinnati Bengals? The Vikes get the Bengals week 3 here.
Well, look, it's a reflection of issues that run deeper with the Cincinnati Bengals. And this is just the latest example. So it's not the disease, it's the symptom. And with Trey Hendrickson, the symptom is we're not going to pay him guarantees beyond this year. And they're not going to pay him the average annual value that he's trying to get. Well, maybe he'll take less, but he still wants more security than 1 year. And when you're on the wrong side of 30, that makes sense. Anybody wants more security than 1 year financially. The Shamar Stewart situation is different but similar. It's a very esoteric contract language question, and it's language that had been good for the Bengals for years, and now all of a sudden they're changing with Shamar Stewart. They use the same language that Shamar Stewart wants last year for the first-round pick, Amarius Mims, this year with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Use the same language. Now all of a sudden they want to change that language with Shamar Stewart, and they're not offering any concession, any quid pro quo, any, hey, if you change this language, we'll give you something else. They just want him to sign the contract and go play football, and he has stood up to them. And at some point, Paul, it becomes about that. It's about power. It's about who's in charge. It's about how dare you, peon, stand up to this organization. We will be here decades beyond you are alive. We will be here centuries beyond your time playing in the NFL. You should view this as an extension of the same honor and a privilege. We hear that crap all through March and April. It's an honor and a privilege to be drafted. It's not an honor and privilege to be drafted by a dysfunctional team. Ask any of the quarterbacks the Jets have drafted the past 15 years. Is that an honor and a privilege to have your career sidetracked and derailed before it can even get started? So this is all part of that attitude. We have the power. You don't. We have the money. You don't. We tell you what to do. And the Bengals won't care if Trey Hendrickson sits home. They won't care if Shamar Stewart sits home. They let Carson Palmer sit home in 2011. And they would let him sit home the whole year if Jason Campbell hadn't broken a collarbone on the Sunday of week 6 when he was playing for the Raiders, and that caused the Raiders to give up enough to get the Browns to trade Carson Palmer, not the Browns, the Bengals, Mike Brown, to trade Carson Palmer to the Raiders back then. So they just don't care. They don't care because they'd much rather make their point. And the point is, we run this team, you don't.
Many a football analyst loves the Minnesota Vikings roster. Then you get to the rookie at quarterback. Is that a problem point for Minnesota, or say all hunky-dory because the coaching staff is high-end?
Wait, is he a rookie? I thought it was his second year.
Excuse me. First regular season game, second-year guy, inexperienced in the regular end or postseason, and good morning.
There are parallels that predate your tenure with the Vikings, but not my tenure with the Vikings. And I think back to the year that the offseason began with the future Hall of Famer being courted by the head coach. And ultimately, it was not the team that opted to go with the second-year unproven quarterback. It was the quarterback, the veteran, the future Hall of Famer who opted not to come to Minnesota, and that was Dan Marino, back when Denny Green was trying to get Marino to come to Minnesota. Instead, they went with first-round pick, 11th overall, Dante Culpepper. Right out of the gates. Right out of the gates. And that was the year, but for the Antonio Freeman, he did what? Catch with Chris Dishman all over him, and the get up and score in overtime. You just change the outcome of that game, and the Vikings have home field advantage throughout the playoffs that year, and they don't lose 41-0 in the NFC Championship. So that year worked out pretty well with Dante Culpepper. So 25 years later, here we are. Second-year guy, taken one spot higher than Culpepper, and yes, he was injured last year, and I think there's going to be concern, does he stay healthy? And there's other concerns, is he good? We don't know, he's unproven. He's as unproven as Dante Culpepper was, but there's similarities there. Great roster, other than the quarterback, and let's see what the quarterback can do. So there's reason to be glass half full. There's reason to look at the situation through purple-colored glasses, and we'll find out.
Now, the Lions, is losing all those coordinators and assistants, along with All-Pro center Frank Ragnow retiring, is that a problem point for the Kitties, or is it business as usual for the division champs?
How can it not be an issue to lose both coordinators and other assistant coaches who left with those coordinators to join their staff? And you lose Frank Ragnow. Now, they knew it was coming, but still, it happened. They've also got undercurrent of some contractual stuff. Alex Anzalone not happy with his deal. He may be holding in with, hamstring or whatever. And that's fine. Hey, I'm a firm believer. Guys, do what you got to do to get paid. I know that one of the various issues that has been a problem recently for the NFLPA is the grievance that the NFL filed because the former president, J.C. Treader, suggested players fake injury. Hey, players have been faking injury all the time when they're not happy with their contract situation or exaggerating or embellishing or whatever. Don't practice if you're not happy with your deal. And then you have Aiden Hutchinson. He's a pass rusher we never talk about who's yet to get his second contract. That's hovering over the team. So, yeah, hey, I think that it's going to be a challenge. And most people believe the Lions are still going to be one of the elite teams in the NFC. They're going to have to show it. They're going to have to prove it. And they're back in what Denny Green called the Valley of 0 and 0. And that is a lonely place to be. When you put in all that effort, all that time, you finish 15-2, you're the number one seed, and it all evaporates on a Saturday night when you get your butt kicked unexpectedly. It is hard to go back to the bottom of the mountain and climb again because everything you did during this special season was wasted. I think it's just very hard. The year after the Vikings were 15-1 and lost in the NFC Championship, it was like 1-2, I think, the Vikings were out of the gates. Like, life comes at you fast. And I think they were like 2-4 when they finally flipped from Randall Cunningham to Jeff George and got to the playoffs and lost to the Rams in the divisional round 49-37. But still, it's a tough road. It's a tougher road. And the Vikings didn't have that kind of turmoil 98-99, although they did lose Brian Billick to the Ravens, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yes. So long story short, it's going to be a transition year for the Lions, and they better be ready for it. And they still have the target on their back, and they've undergone a lot of change.
Does Miami's Mike McDaniel need a big season to keep his job?
I think he's got to make the playoffs at a minimum. Now, they haven't won a playoff game for 25 years, so I don't know that you expect him to do that. But, anytime you hear consecutive years a team wanting to change its culture, at some point the team changes its coach. And I think what happened was, and this is a common dynamic in the NFL, if you have a coach who, in Brian Flores, was, a little too Belichickian, a little too hard on the players, especially the quarterback, when you move on, the temptation is to do a 180 and get a guy at the other end of the spectrum. So they get this players coach who's a nice guy, and he's been run over by his players. They show up late. And that's one of the things they're trying to address now. We've all been in a job or in a classroom where the boss is a certain way, and then all of a sudden the boss tries to change and become tougher. Nobody takes him seriously at that point. That's going to be the challenge. So I look at the roster. I look at some of the decisions they've made. I look at how delayed they were in trading Jalen Ramsey and trading Jonnu Smith and replacing Jonnu Smith with a retired tight end that they traded for with the Giants. I saw today Mike McDaniel was talking about signing a veteran corner. It's like, hey, why don't they trade with Washington for the rights to Darrell Green? I mean, it's just ridiculous to be trying to round out your roster at this stage of the year and making trades in late June and early July. So I just have a feeling they're going to end up fourth in that division, and I think some big changes are on the horizon for the Dolphins in 2026. I could be wrong. Hey, they have as good a chance as anyone to come out of the gates and win games, but recent history tells me it's going to be a long year for that team.
Lastly, Negan's team, the season wins total for the Browns, Negan's team is 4.5. Holy cow. The Vikings get them in London week 5. 4.5. Is the over smashable there?
Well, I think it is. It just all depends upon, first of all, who their quarterback is going to be and how they handle this quarterback situation. And as I've said in the past, when you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none, and when you have 5 quarterbacks, you're the Browns. I don't know how they're going to divvy up reps in the preseason. I don't know who the starter is going to be. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what they're doing. It's almost like they're trying to be as dysfunctional as they can. So who knows how this goes? But they're clearly the 4th best roster in the division. Now, could they surprise people? Yes, we've seen it. 4 years ago, I said there's no chance the Bengals make the playoffs, and they almost won the Super Bowl. 2 years ago, no chance the Texans make the playoffs, and they made it to the final 8. You give teams a fresh slate. You give them low expectations. You give them a lot of 1 o'clock Eastern games on Sundays where they can just kind of go about their business without hyper expectations. And the next thing you know, they're in the mix for the playoffs. I mean, there's a fine line in the standings between playoffs and not playoffs. There's going to be a few teams that are just horrible, but most of the teams that aren't like 4-13, 3-14 are a game or 2 away from contention. And could that happen for the Browns? Could they win 5 games? Sure. I'm not going to say they're going 0-18, or I'm getting ahead of myself. 0-17, eventually be 0-18. But do we really think they're going to be highly competitive this year? That would be a surprise.
You're fantastic. Good chatting with you again, and call you in the near future, okay?
Thanks, Paul. See you, Paul.
See you, bud. Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. We will more localize it around the corner, and weekly guest Ben Gessling from the Star Tribune joins 9 to noon from day 1 of Minnesota Vikings Training Camp at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center on KFAN.